Hello, everyone, and welcome to the course. I am Dr. Paul Morrison. I'll be training you today on A plus CompTIA training program. And what I mean by training is training you how to actually pass the exam. So I'm focusing more on exam concepts, not so much a full-blown program as it relates to CompTIA in general, as it relates to A plus. So the focus is giving you ideas and perspectives from my perspective. Having taken these exams myself, I could clearly illustrate areas that you need to focus on as it relates to the training. Additionally, what I've done is I put together videos that I think is going to really explain visually core competencies or content more so that you need to be concerned with when taking the exam. A little bit about my background. I have a doctorate in computer science. My focus is cybersecurity. I do work as a cybersecurity professional, and getting started earlier in my career, I did start out with the A plus, Network plus, and Security plus certifications. Also, I'm a certified ethical hacker. I will be training on all of those programs, and I do look forward to you utilizing some of the content that I am going to create to help you on your journey within cybersecurity. The courses are broken up by chapter and videos. So my recommendation is play the videos first, go through the PowerPoint, and then I do follow up with sample review questions. And I'll say more on that because when you study for any exam, you look at different resources and material to help you prepare. This is just one of them. One of the things I'm going to continue to illustrate all throughout the training is very important that you take practice exams. And that is something you're just going to see in general from that perspective. So in chapter one, I'm going to really talk to you about more of the overview of the training program. And I think I've already captured that. Some of the benefits, and then I'll go into career opportunities. But I'm going to cover some foundational information as it relates to exam objectives. So starting out with that is really looking at what are the core elements of the program, and I'll break those out accordingly. Now, a little bit background about this course, and one of the prerequisite, hopefully if you've read before taking the course or purchasing it, you should at least have 12 months of experience as a help desk technician. Now, I will share with you some points. Did I actually have 12 months? Actually, no, I didn't. I took the course and I just really just studied. Now, what I did do was I did create my own lab, and that is something I'm going to recommend to anyone. Nowadays, you could go out and buy a desktop, a laptop, relatively cheap. That is really the only way you're going to really understand the concepts is to really get in there, and I like to say get your hands dirty, because through those programs, through that training is really where you're going to really understand what you're learning. Now, the CompTIA exam is a recognized exam globally. So I could tell you if you're going to work for the government or one of these other sectors, they're going to really require you to have Security plus, A plus, and Network plus Security certifications. So it is valuable for you to get this as a starting entry into the cybersecurity world. As I have here, the certification does validate, that you have an understanding of the fundamentals. Not like you're going to go in there and be able to knock things out of the park, but it does validate that you have the understanding of the fundamentals, and it'll allow you to get your foot in the door. I have hired people who've had these certifications, and I've hired people who didn't. I had an easier road to go, and they had an easier road to go because they understood the fundamentals. Because without that, it's really difficult to really learn the fundamentals and being tasked with a role to get your job done, and you really don't know what you're doing. So I could tell you for myself and some of my colleagues, we don't normally hire individuals unless we see some level of core certification that they understand the fundamentals. Now, the great thing is once you get the certification, you could do many different things. You could consult, you could obviously get into cybersecurity, you could get on the help desk and be technical support as well as desktop support analyst. Again, it allows you to do more of it versus just getting in there and not really understanding what you're doing. So let's get into it. The next thing I'm going to really cover is some foundational concepts that's important for you to be aware of. I'm going to cover it more in other chapters, but I'm going to get into first just installing a motherboard. What does that look like? Now, hopefully the video really gave you those salient points that you really need to understand as it relates to the exam and some of the exam questions. But I'm going to cover it in the next couple of slides. Now, the one thing I want you to understand is a lot of information in this course. I would take it in chunks, write things down, and if you have questions or things you would want me to cover more in detail or some things you felt that, hey, I just didn't get it, I will, at the end of each chapter, give you my email address. Please reach out and I will answer any additional questions you may have or provide you any additional information free of charge. So we're not kind of one and done here. It's I have questions. Do you mind, giving me more information or more examples? And I'm happy to do that. Anytime you do a course, you could cram a lot of things into it, and then at the end of the day, you could just say good luck. But I know this is a journey. It's not a sprint. So happy to do that along the board. And speaking of boards, let's get into more of an introduction to installing motherboards and connectors. I started out, I used to build computers. And when I was building computers, I first kind of learned the fundamentals by taking a course like this. Nowadays, again, I guess you could go on YouTube and it could kind of explain to you a little bit about how to do that. But one of the things you have to do is when you're thinking of installing a motherboard, you do have to consider some factors in terms of compatibility with the CPU, RAM, and other components. I can remember not doing that, and I had major conflicts related to really getting that motherboard installed. I also have to make sure I had the necessary slots and ports as I look to expand. So again, when you're looking to select a motherboard, you really want to make sure that it's a motherboard that's going to allow you to expand. Now, when I was building my items out, before installing, I had to ensure I had the case ready, so I had to remove any pre-installed components or panels, and then again, just installing basically standoffs, which will prevent, short circuits. And also it's going to ensure that there's enough space for the motherboard and the components. Again, I covered that hopefully in the tutorial as in the visual. So hopefully you got a good portion of that there. All right, so this is just kind of an example of components of how you're aligning and securing the motherboard. So I wanted to give you a pictorial of that. So you normally place the motherboard in the case. You're going to align it to the standoffs and the I/O shields. And then you secure it with the screws. That's normally what you would do. And then, of course, you would connect the power. Again, you want to attach the main power connector and a CPU power connector from the power supply unit, which in this case is the PCU, to the motherboard. Then you want to install what we call RAM and CPU. You want to carefully install the CPU into the socket and secure it with the locking mechanism. Then you need to install the RAM modules into appropriate slots. Now, again, this will make more sense as we cover things down the road, but these are things that, from a test perspective, will be test questions in general. Now, let's talk about, continuing to connect the rest of the other items. So once you've done that, you want to start connecting your hard drive, your optical drives, your SSD drives, any external ports. The goal here is to ensure that all connections are secure and that cables do not obstruct airflow within the case, because your case has a fan in it and it's going to want to make sure it's cooling continuously, those components, or it's going to overheat. You may have some troubleshooting issues that, as a technician, you may run into. And again, the reason why you kind of want to understand how things are connected has a lot to do with the support you're going to provide. Now, some common issues I've kind of illustrated here. Normally, when I was a tech working on the help desk, I would get calls like, well, my unit doesn't come on. Believe it or not, sometimes I would just ask a simple question. Well, is it plugged in? You'll be amazed how many people go, you know what? Oops, it's not plugged in. So they would make sure it's plugged in. And I would sometimes say, is it turned on? And they would go, well, oh, isn't it? And they would look and go, oh, it's not turned on. So again, I won't say all of those things are going to be very simple. I'm just saying these are some of the things that you may come about and get into the nuances from it from that perspective. Again, I have here, if the PC does not power on or display correctly, you want to make sure you check all connections. It's kind of what I just talked about. You want to ensure the PCU is functioning and verify that the CPU, RAM, and GPU are correctly sealed. And then you want to listen for any beeps or codes, which could indicate hardware issues. Now, again, this is if you're on premise. So the A Plus kind of takes you through if you're still working on premise and you're going out and fixing and looking at systems. It really covers that from that perspective. Now, from an exam perspective, just remember some of these best practice. Static precautions. So you want to always use an anti-static wrist strap to avoid damaging components within the static electricity. Cable management. You want to organize your cables to improve airflow and make future maintenance easier. Documentation. You want to keep the motherboard manually handy for, again, you're going to reference to it from that perspective. So that really covers it in high level, a little bit around the installation of the motherboard. Again, I went a little deeper and a lot deeper in the video. So please make sure you're reviewing the video. So let me give you some background about the video. I wrote the content of the video that kind of explains step by step. And then I use really AI to kind of pull it all together. So again, I do utilize AI where it makes sense, more from a visual perspective. So again, the words are mine, but the pictures are really AI pulling that together. And I thought this is a great way to utilize AI to just really give a visual of how to do something. So everything that you're seeing in that video, please take note, because they are exam questions that will come up in terms of some of those items that you're seeing. So let's get into a little bit more about the benefits of the A Plus certification. So I think I talked about it earlier. So I have here 7 reasons why you should choose CompTIA. So it's going to obviously enhance your certification and your skill set. It'll help you resolve common issues faster. So if you know how to do it, it'll help you resolve it once you pass the certification. It'll make you really eligible for diverse job roles. I cannot tell you when I first got my certification, and it was very early on when certifications really wasn't a big deal, but I could tell you, number one and number two, it really gave me an understanding of the knowledge and how to apply what I was working on. And it allowed me to work from any location. I would say that's another positive. Now, with this certification, it allows you to work anywhere remotely from that perspective. And I have here cost less. So as you get into your journey of your cybersecurity journey, you'll learn some of these certifications can be quite expensive from there. I have here enjoyed the money basically and the benefits that comes along with it because it's a well-paid for role because the role is very hard to fill and there's not enough basically qualified candidates to fill the jobs that are existing. And it also shows you're serious about moving in your career. So that's really one of the top seven reasons to do it. Now I have here what is the certification covers. So it really covers basic IT topics, including hardware, software, network security, troubleshooting, and ensuring that the certified professional has a solid foundation in key IT concepts. Again, concepts. Not going to say you're a professional in the sense that you know it back and forth, etc. Is do you have concepts that you clearly understand and how you need to apply it? So this validation of knowledge really makes you more attractive to candidates or potential employers. So basically, people like me who hire, I see that, I go, okay, let's at least allow this person a chance to interview. Let's see what they could do. So that's really what this provides from that lens. So let's talk about benefits. I kind of covered it already in my 7 categories from there. It recognizes you as a benchmark. So it's a benchmark that we look at to say, okay, this person has the IT proficiency to learn concept. So again, that's really what it, additionally to what it means, it allows you to be able to demonstrate, and it demonstrates to, again, to people like me that you have the skills necessary needed to excel in the various IT roles. Professional growth, again, one of the things with certifications or anything is to continue to learn. Cybersecurity is not one and done. You are on a journey, not a sprint. Once you get the certification, doesn't mean it's done deal and away you go. I have tons, but I built upon learning, getting those certifications. But you start out with your A plus, your security plus, your network plus as your foundational ones. I think these are good ones to have because then it'll give you those core concepts to be able to move on to other positions or grow within your current position from there. And of course, that leads into career opportunities. So, what are the career opportunities? There's quite a bit. Once you get your A plus certified certification from CompTIA done, you can pursue various roles such as help desk, support specialist, test desktop support. There's many positions, quite frankly, in the IT world you could actually take. So again, once you get past this hurdle, I like to say the world is your oyster from a cyber perspective. So just think of it from there. But yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of areas you could grow into from there. Now, from the perspective of cybersecurity pathways, for those interested in cybersecurity, the A plus certification provides a strong foundation to pursue roles such as cybersecurity analysts, information security specialists, or network security administrators. The certification covers essentially many cybersecurity concepts, best practices, tools necessary to protect IT systems, and threats that you will encounter from threat actors. IT consultants. So once you get your, this is, and so what I'm really going through is really the areas of pathways or possible career opportunities you could utilize when you get your A plus certification. So here I'm covering consultants. So an A plus certified consultant can also excel in the IT consulting world. And I think I talked about this a little bit earlier, where you're working with clients to design and implement and maintain IT solutions that really meet those business needs. With your technical expertise as it relates to system configuration, troubleshooting, A plus certification consultants can offer valuable services that make them differentiate themselves from the competitor. That's really part of what this certification does. So I'm always pretty excited about that, and I'm pretty sure once you get yours and you start working in the field, you'll be excited also. Prerequisites. So what do I mean by that? Really think of it as what are some of the things I need to definitely know when it comes to the exam. And you need to also understand that how do how does everything kind of connect? That's very important. So again, you want to understand connections via the motherboard and distinguish between the modern and the legacy interface. So again, being able to distinguish between basically the old and new. That's probably the better way to say it. Then you're looking at peripheral devices. What are those peripheral devices? Those are keyboard, mouse, which are your input. Your output are your monitors and speakers and storage. Accessing components involves removing the side panels or the covers. So again, this is a lot more technical in nature from that lens. Ports can be on the motherboard or it could be expansion ports, expansion cards. Managed by a host controller supporting multiple ports. HDMI and DisplayPort provide video and audio connections. Thunderbolt services as both a display and general interface from that perspective, peripheral interfaces. Research and install additional cards for special requirement. Stock necessary cables and adapters, and knowledge of motherboard types and connectors is crucial for upgrades and repairs. So again, think of it more from that lens as to what are the things you're going to need, and it might be a series of multiple choice questions. So again, just really familiarize yourself with these concepts. And what I try to do at the end of this is, again, additional questions that tie into this more. Again, looking at the video, hopefully a lot of these terms, HDMI, display port, video, etc., is illustrated a lot better. Because I remember taking these types of courses and I cannot tell you how it was very wordy and I just needed more visuals to get it. Plus, again, and I repeated it before, you really want to get a laptop and dig in there, or correction, more of a desktop and dig in there more so you could start to get your hands dirty and you'll be able to understand the ports, and every visual that I've shown you, you'll be able to look at it from that perspective. Okay, questions for chapter 1. Again, I try to just follow up with some common questions related to the material. Some of these may be on an exam, may not be. So again, let's look at some of these together and please take note accordingly. What is the primary purpose of the A+ Training CompTIA certification? The primary purpose is to validate foundational skills in IT, ensuring that the certified professional possesses the necessary knowledge to perform critical IT support tasks. What are the primary functions of a motherboard in a PC? The motherboard connects all the components of a computer, providing the necessary circuits, connection for the CPU, RAM, and peripheral devices. Basically for everything to communicate. Think of it as the central hub for the mouse, everything that would be used to basically get its instructions. That's kind of how I look at it from that perspective. Explain the importance of using the correct type of cable for connecting peripheral devices. Using the correct cable type ensures proper communication, functionality of peripheral devices, reducing the risk of damage and improving the performance. So it's really important to basically get the right cable. If you don't do that, sometimes you will get performance issues. You will get other things that is not going to allow the communication and could create damages to the various systems within the unit itself. So again, given that this is kind of an exam question, please focusing it from that lens. Why is it important from a cybersecurity perspective to have that IT knowledge? Right. So the question is, why is cybersecurity knowledge essential for IT professionals? Cybersecurity knowledge is critical as it enables IT professionals to safeguard sensitive data, ensure system integrity, and protect organizations from cyber attack and breaches. And there's a lot of breaches going on these days. Which roles in IT support can be pursued with this certification? Roles include help desk, support desk, technology support specialist, desktop support, all of which require that foundational knowledge as it relates to IT skills. How does the A Plus training CompTIA certification benefit IT consultants? It equips consultants with a comprehensive understanding of IT systems, enhancing their ability to diagnose issues, recommend solutions, and implement effective IT strategies. Now, this one, there's some things I'll just pause again because given my experience, many times I've walked in the door of a client and sometimes they'll not understand where to start. If you have basic concepts and understanding of these systems, you have a place to start. And then collectively, collaborative, you could work with the client or your employer to come up with a solution. Glossary of terms. What I did is really just put together a glossary of terms, more of a definition section. I recommend just studying these, understanding how they fit within the whole cybersecurity picture. Again, some of these concepts will be on the exam. So the way I look at definitions, if I know what it is, and then I see a question, and if it doesn't fit that definition, then I kind of weed that question out. We'll get into a little bit more about strategy, but that's just something that I've used in the past, really understanding the definition, which will then help me answer the questions more effectively. But again, like I said, we'll get into strategy of how to take this exam based on the many exams I've taken. And the concepts and the strategies have always been the same. Okay, let's look at the glossary of terms for this chapter. Certification, a formal process for verifying the qualifications and skills of an individual in a specific field. In IT, certifications like A+, validate technical knowledge and competency. Cybersecurity, the practice of protecting systems, networks, and programs from digital attacks. It involves implementing security measures to safeguard information and ensure system integrity. IT consulting provides expert advice and services to help organizations optimize their IT infrastructure and operations. IT consultants assess systems, recommend improvements, and implement solutions. Risk management, the process of identifying, assessing, and controlling threats as it relates to the organizational capital and earnings. It involves developing strategies to minimize and mitigate, that's very important, potential impact. System configuration, the arrangement of hardware and software in computers and proper configuration to ensure optimal performance and security of the IT systems. along as it relates to the glossary terms. ATX, Advanced Technology Extended. This is a popular motherboard form factor known for its size and layout. This allows for multiple expansion slots and efficient component organization. PSU, Power Supply Unit, the component that provides power to a motherboard, converting electrical energy from an outlet into a usable power for the motherboard and other components. Peripheral devices is going to, it's an external device connected to the computer. So again, peripheral, got to correct that, peripheral devices are really external devices connect to the computer, such as keyboards, mice, printers, motherboards, which really does input and output. In some cases, it could just do output. But in this case, and from the definition, which input or does output of data. ESD, which is electrical discharge, a sudden flow of electricity between two elements that basically will create a charge related to the objectives. It can damage sensitive electrical components in a computer. EMI, electromagnetic interface. So it's going to distribute, so it's distribution generated by external sources such as electrical circuit, which can cause malfunction as well as data loss in the computer. Okay, this concludes chapter 1. I think between the videos as well as the PowerPoint, hopefully you get an understanding of everything that I tried to convey. As I said, it's not one and done. So here's my email. Please reach out to me, Dr. Paul Morrison at PKMCyberConsultants.com. If you have any questions, you need me to go over more material, I am happy to do that free of charge to help you really study for the exam. As I go through each one of these chapters, there's a lot of information. I'll do a wrap up, but again, I would reiterate at each end of one of my chapters, really lessons that I go through. It's not one and done. You do have access to me. I believe in really getting the next generation of cybersecurity professionals into the field. Anything I could do to support that and make that someone's dream, I'm happy to do that. Okay, thank you. On to chapter 2.